Chapter 29. Unfinished Conversations. Less than third person POV greater than. Near the tents, a small cluster of people were gathered around. Carl sat on the edge of the picnic table beside Dale. Lori stood stiffly, arms crossed. Rick stood nearby Shane, hands on his hips, already knowing where this was headed. What's he thinking? Lori asked, looking subtly towards Carl. Running around with knives like it's some game. Shane looks at Rick before looking back at Lori. He just wants to learn to protect himself and he wants to get his own gun later. He looked at Rick, then back to Lori. Now it's none of my business, but I'm happy to teach him. Your call. Lori frowned. I'm not comfortable with it. Everyone just kept looking at Lori, not saying anything. Oh, don't make me out to be the unreasonable one here, Lori said, turning to Rick. Rick met her eyes. I know, Rick said finally. I've got concerns too, but. There's no but, Lori cut him off. I don't want my kid running around throwing knives or carrying a gun. Rick's tone stayed calm. Better than him being afraid of them. He gestured loosely towards the barn, the fields, the forest beyond. There are weapons in camp for a reason. He should learn to handle them. Lori didn't budge. I don't want him running around with knives and guns, Rick. And how do you plan to protect him from what's out there? Rick asked. We can't be around him every second. He's as safe as he'll ever be right here. Her voice cracked a little. Everything you're saying makes sense. But it still feels wrong. Rick looked at Carl, then back to her. He's grown up, Lori. We've got to start treating him like it. Lori folded her arms tighter. Then he needs to act like one. She looked at Carl now, more directly. He's not mature enough to handle guns or knives. For God's sake, Rick, he's 12. Carl shifted where he sat. Then, he spoke. I'm not gonna play with it, Mom. He looked at his mom. I want to defend the camp. I can't do that without a weapon. Rick didn't say anything for a second. Shane's the best instructor I know. He looked at Lori, speaking carefully. And Itachi, he's the most skilled person I've ever seen with a knife. I've seen Shane train younger kids before. And Sophia picked up some survival skills from Itachi. Lori just kept staring at Carl, not saying anything. Then she nodded slowly. You will take this seriously, she said, pointing at him. You will behave responsibly. And if I hear from anyone in this camp that you're not living up to our expectations. He won't, Rick cut in. He won't let you down. Carl looked down, but nodded. Dale gave him a pat on the shoulder, and Carl quietly stood to follow him as the group started to disperse. They walked side by side toward Hershel's house. No one else around. The grass crunched under their feet. Lori finally spoke. I'm not sure I want Itachi teaching Carl. Rick blinked, surprised, as he looked at her. Why? Lori didn't look back at him, just kept walking. Look, I'm grateful he helped bring you back, I really am. But I don't like how everyone seems to just listen to him. Rick's brow furrowed. I don't understand. Lori kept going. You might not see it, but I do. You, Daryl, and everyone seem to just go along with whatever he says. And I get a bad feeling from him. He's not normal. Number 17-year-old should be like that. Rick looked sternly at Lori. And he's been keeping us alive. He gestured around the farm and camp. The guns. The food. Even the farm. He secured everything. Most of us wouldn't even be alive if not for him. Rick exhaled slowly, calming down. You want me to doubt him? Fine. Give me one reason to. Lori turned back for a second, catching the serious look on Rick's face, before saying nothing and walking off. Shane was walking back to his tent when Dale called out behind him. Shane. Shane slowed down and turned his head to look at Dale. I was thinking, Dale said seriously, catching up to him. We have enough cars and plenty of fuel. More than enough for you to get far from here. Shane turned all the way around now, eyeing Dale with suspicion. What, you telling me to leave? Dale continued. I know you've been planning to. Maybe now's a good time. Shane folded his arms. What's this about? Dale looked sternly at Shane. I'm looking out for the group. Shane stepped closer toward Dale. You think the group would be better off without me, Dale? Shane asked, voice tight. Why don't you tell that to Rick or Lori? Dale didn't hesitate. The group would be safer without you. Shane's jaw clenched, his expression tightening. I've done everything I can to keep you people alive. Dale stepped closer, eyes narrowing. By raising your gun on Rick. His voice rose slightly. Come on. Jesus. You had him in your sights, and you held him there. There was a heavy pause as Dale stared straight at him and said in a lowered voice. I know what kind of man you are. Shane took a slow step forward, lowering his voice to a near whisper. His eyes darkening. You think I'd shoot Rick? He got closer to Dale again, being only arm's reach away from him. That's my best friend. That's the man that I love. I love him like he's my brother. Then, his voice grew sharper. You think that's the kind of man I am? Dale met his gaze, nodding. That's right. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension between them rising. Then Shane tilted his head slightly, his tone cold. Well, maybe we ought to just think that through. He took another step forward. Say I'm the kind of man who'd gun down his own best friend. His eyes darkened even further. What do you think I'd do to some guy the first don't even like when he starts throwing accusations my way? What do you think? Dale didn't answer. He just stood there, watching him, mouth slightly open. Shane was still glaring down at Dale when a sudden voice cut them off. That's enough. The voice was quiet but firm. Both men turned to see Itachi stepping into view. Dale stepped back slightly, saying nothing. Shane didn't move. He just stared at Itachi. After a few seconds, Itachi glanced towards the trees and back at Shane. Come with me. Shane didn't respond at first. But after a moment, he exhaled sharply and turned, starting to walk behind Itachi, looking at his back, not saying anything. Eventually, Shane broke the silence. You heard all that? Itachi didn't look over. Everything. Shane scoffed. Well, go on then. Why did you bring me here? You gonna tell me to leave the group like Dale? Itachi didn't answer right away. I'm not here to tell you to leave. Shane narrowed his eyes, hand hovering closer to his gun. Then why bring me away from the others? There was a beat. Then Itachi spoke again. To talk to you, and maybe to understand you more. Shane stopped walking for a second. You, what? Then Itachi sent a glance back at Shane. And you better remove that hand from the gun. It wouldn't do much against me anyway. Shane kept staring at Itachi before slowly moving his hand away from his gun. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Shane paused before asking. So you heard about me and Rick? Itachi just nodded, looking back at the road ahead. Shane looked at him hard, expecting some kind of judgment. And, Itachi calmly responded. And I understand why you raised that gun. Shane's expression flickered. Surprise. Confusion. Then anger. You don't understand shit. I understand what it feels like to be pushed aside, Itachi said. To lose the people you thought you'd always have. I understand how anger builds when you can't even talk about it to the people you care about. Shane looked a bit surprised. You know about me and Lori. Itachi sent a glance at Shane. Yes. And some in the camp know about it as well. Shane clenched his jaw, responding to Itachi in a serious tone. I thought he was dead. I stepped in because someone had to. For Lori, and Carl. He trailed off, shoulders tense. Itachi's voice stayed calm. And Rick doesn't blame you for that. Shane snapped his head to him sharply. What do you mean? Itachi didn't flinch. He has some suspicions about what happened. He's not stupid. He started piecing this together at the quarry. Shane clenched his fists hard, staying quiet. And I believe that you care about Rick as your brother. That part is at least true. Shane just kept staring at Itachi's back without saying anything. And you feel like you lost everything when he came back. Shane walked up closer to Itachi, looking at him seriously. Stop talking like you know everything when you don't know shit. Itachi turned around, looking at Shane. I told you I don't understand everything. That's why I'm trying to talk to you now. Shane looked angry at him. And why do you care? Itachi calmly responded. Because you're breaking apart, each day, more and more. Shane just stared at him for a second longer. So what? You want to tell me to just move on? Leave Carl and Lori behind. His voice rose slightly. I'm nothing without them. They saved me, not the other way around. Itachi just listened to him, absorbing his words before sighing. Just don't let those emotions eat you alive. Look, I'm not the best at it, just talk to me. Shane looked at him, a bit surprised, before scoffing. And what good will it do? Itachi responded immediately. I won't judge. Even if you tell me that you're planning to kill Rick the next day. Shane looked at him a bit longer before turning around and walking away. I'll keep that in mind. And clean the glitter off your hands. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support. We've officially passed 900 plus power stones. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought of the story and the character interactions in the comments. I love reading your reactions. Speech balloon. Now a bit about Shane's character, for those who want to read my rant and thoughts about him. Open mouth smile. I rewatched practically every scene Shane was in from S1 to S2 and also read some Reddit posts about him. Detective, is Shane a villain or an antihero? Most people either consider him a villain or an antihero. In my opinion, he's both. He starts as an antihero, but ends up a villain. I couldn't call him a villain based on how he acted early on, and I couldn't call him an antihero by the end. Trying to kill your best friend, someone you consider a brother, is a villain act in my book. Heartbreak. What truly broke Shane? There are a lot of opinions on this, but I honestly think it was Lori's pregnancy, and more specifically, when she told him he couldn't even father his own child. For those who didn't know or didn't pay attention to the show, Judith, the child Lori is pregnant with, is actually Shane's. This is confirmed in the show when Rick says it himself, and there's even a hallucination where Shane talks to Rick and asks about Judith, "How is my baby girl, by the way?" Shane confirms that the only reason he's still alive is Lori and Carl. You can interpret that however you want. Maybe he would have killed himself, or maybe he just would have lost it entirely. With them, he felt alive. He finally had a family of his own. And when Rick came back, his life support was ripped away. He lost everything: his family, the people who kept him sane, and his leadership. Then, on top of that, he realizes he wouldn't even get to be a father to the baby that's biologically his. That's what pushed him over the edge. People hugging. Did Shane care about the others? A lot of people say Shane only cared about Carl and Lori, and I honestly think that's false. There are clear moments where Shane protects or helps the group. The highway scene, where he shoves Glenn under the truck before going himself. Helping Andrea with gun training, even though he didn't have to. Of course, his priority is Carl and Lori, and that's normal. That's how humans work. We all have a priority list. You'd try to protect your family before thinking of strangers. So I don't believe Shane was indifferent. Yes, he prioritized Carl and Lori. But that doesn't mean he didn't care about the rest. Brain. Did Shane care about Rick at the end? Again, I've seen people claim that Shane didn't care about Rick anymore. That all he saw was Lori and Carl. I'd say that's false. Just looking at the final scene, you could tell he wasn't indifferent. He had so many opportunities to kill Rick, and he didn't. He hesitated. He listened. He gave Rick a chance to talk. And when he's finally bleeding out, the last thing he does is hold Rick's face and just look at him. Receipt. My conclusion. Cold sweat smile. Honestly, I think Shane was one of the most tragic characters in season 2, constantly misunderstood and slowly stripped of everything he cared about. One scene I always remember is the barn reveal. When they find Sophia, already turned. Shane, the one who said she was dead, hesitates. He just watches her and doesn't shoot. And Rick has to be the one to pull the trigger. I truly believe Shane tried to keep the group safe. But because of his aggressive, blunt nature, no one really saw it. Shane adapted to the new world faster than anyone. But he didn't have the mental strength to live with his actions. There are moments that show this. His talk with Andrea, when he says, "You do what you have to do to survive. And then you live with it." Then adds, "I just haven't figured out the second part." Something like that. I'm not sure about the exact words as I pulled it out of my memory. Or even Rick's words when he tells him that he couldn't live with killing him. Okay, that was a longest rant. Cold sweat smile, and I didn't even go over everything, so I'll just leave it here. Thanks again for reading Black Heart. Let me know what you think about Shane in the comments. I love hearing different perspectives. 73 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 30. He took everything. Less than third person POV greater than. The group had gathered for breakfast around the fire pit. Most were sitting on fold-out chairs or tree stumps, quietly eating or chatting in pairs. Then Amy's laughter cut through the quiet. She walked into camp beside Itachi, still a little out of breath, grinning as she told him something between laughs. He was slightly smiling, responding to her story. As they walked closer, Jenner looked at Itachi and gave them a quick nod as they passed. Andrea stood near the fire, handing out plates. She glanced over as Amy and Itachi approached. "Back already?" she said, smirking. "That's a new record." Amy grabbed a plate without looking at her. "Shut up." Andrea handed one to Itachi too. Didn't say anything. Daryl, sitting nearby with a tin bowl in his lap, spoke without looking up. "As long as they ain't bringin' walkers back with them, I don't give a damn." Amy sat down next to Itachi. He set his plate on his knees and started eating in silence. For a while, the group just ate. Then Glenn stood up. He looked around at everyone, visibly nervous. Guys. Everyone turned. So. He rubbed the back of his neck. The barn is full of walkers. Everything stopped. Forks froze. Nobody moved. All eyes were on Glenn. The group gathered around the barn. Shane stepped forward and peeked through the gaps in the wood. Inside, walkers shuffled around aimlessly, groaning and scraping against the walls. Shane turned, walking straight up to Rick, angry. You cannot tell me you're all right with this. Rick looked back at his best friend. No, I'm not. But we're guests here. This isn't our land. Shane's voice rose. This is our lives. Glenn stepped in quickly. Lower your voice. Andrea crossed her arms, tense. We can't just sweep this under the rug. Amy gave a small nod, already hovering her hand over her kunai. Shane shook his head. It ain't right. Not remotely. He looked back at the barn. Okay, we've either got to go in there and make things right, or we've got to leave. But we're not sleeping near a barn full of walkers inside. Rick faced him again. We can't go. Not yet. Shane's voice snapped louder. Why, Rick? Why? Rick finally snapped back. Because Lori is pregnant, okay. Shane stumbled back a step, stunned. He looked at Lori, then Rick, saying nothing. Rick's voice dropped lower. Just, let me figure it out. I'll talk to Hershel. It's his land. He looked back at the barn. If we're gonna stay, if we're gonna clear that barn, I have to talk him into it. Silence held for a moment. Then Dale stepped forward. Hershel sees those things in there as people. He looked around the group. Sick people. His wife. His stepson. Everyone turned towards him, surprised. Andrea narrowed her eyes. You knew. Dale nodded slowly. Yesterday I talked to Hershel. Carol pulled Sophia closer into her arms. And you waited the night. Dale met her eyes. I thought we could survive one more night. We did. I was waiting till this morning to say something. But Glenn wanted to be the one. Carol's voice tightened. We have kids out here. One of them could have tried sneaking inside, just to see what was in there. Amy looked at Dale too. Sorry, Dale, but I have to agree with Carol. You know they'd want to get inside more just because we're not allowed near it. Jenner stepped forward. I think you're all forgetting something important. Everyone turned to him. Hershel sees those things as people. If we just kill them, we'd be murderers in his eyes. Shane looked away, jaw clenched, then turned back towards Rick. The man is crazy, Rick. If Hershel thinks those things are alive, he's lost it. Most of the group nodded, some muttering in agreement. The argument started to rise again. Then a loud rattling cut through it all. Chains scraped and clanked from inside the barn. Low growls. Fingers poked through the cracks in the wood, clawing at air, desperate. Everyone went silent. Carol quickly grabbed Sophia's hand and turned away, walking back towards the camp. Lori did the same, pulling Carl away. No one said anything. They just stared at the barn. Less than Rick's paw greater than. I arrived at the house and knocked once at the door, then heard his voice. Come on in. I stepped inside. He was at the table with an old book open in front of him. A little light reading for lunch. I said, trying to ease into it. Hershel didn't look up. Been working so hard lately, I get my studying where I can. You know we can help you out with your work, I said. It's my field to tend. There was a pause. I took a slow breath. We found the barn. He looked back at me, with a serious look on his face. Leave it be. I kept my voice steady. Well, I'd like to talk about it. But either way, your barn, your farm, your say. I don't want to talk about the barn, he said flatly. I don't want to debate. Not a debate, I said. A discussion. He closed the book this time and looked me in the eyes. I need you and your group gone by the end of the week. I stood there for a second, trying to choose my words carefully. I talked to Dale, I said. You and I have our differences with the way we look at the walkers. Those people, they may be dead, they may be alive. But my people, us, we're alive. Right now, right in front of you. You send us out there, and that could change. I've given you safe harbor, he said. My conscience is clear. This farm, I looked at him, trying to get my point across. It's special. You've been shielded from what's going on out there. Dale said you saw it all happen on the news. Well, it's been a long time since the cameras stopped rolling. Hershel picked his book back up and started walking away. I followed him, not ready to let it end just like this. The first time I saw a walker, it was just half a body. Crawling. Snapping at me from the ground. I didn't kill it. Didn't even think to. But the world out there, it's not what you saw on TV. It's worse. It changes people. Either into one of them, or into something less than who they used to be. I stopped walking. Please. Don't send us back out there. I said, my voice quivering a bit. He didn't turn around. My wife's pregnant, I said quietly. That's either a gift here, or a death sentence out there. If we stayed, we could help. With the work. Securing this place. We can survive together. He stopped and looked back at me. Rick, he said. I'm telling you. We can't. You think about what you're doing. I've thought about it, he responded, raising his voice, getting annoyed. I took a step forward, my voice rising to matching his. Think about it again. We can't go out there. On those words, I left, closing the door behind me. I sat down on the porch steps, rubbed my hands over my face. I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do. The farm looked safe. It felt like the right place. But he wasn't budging. And I wasn't sure I had it in me to keep trying. The prison crossed my mind. Ugly. Cold. But maybe the only real fallback. But Lori. Carl. No. I didn't want to move them there. Not yet. Not unless I had no other choice. I ran my fingers over my forehead, taking a deep breath. I stood up and started walking. I needed to find Itachi. I know he wants to move, but he might be the only one who can give me some kind of answers. Less than Shane's paw greater than. Lori was sitting near a tree stump, chopping carrots into a pot as I walked over to her. I crouched down in front of her and stayed quiet for a second. Then I said it. I thought he was dead. She didn't stop cutting. Shane, I don't. I wished he was, I cut in. Not because you wouldn't be mine. But because I knew, sooner or later, he'd be dead anyway. She didn't say anything. Rick, I went on, he ain't built for this world. Not for what it is now. You're wrong, she said, looking at me. You're wrong. How many times has he saved your life, Lori? I asked. I just wanna know. 'Cause by my count, I've saved it 4 times. That's Carl's too. So I'm asking, how many times has Rick saved you? She responded immediately. That night at the camp. After the fish fry. I stood up fast. No, see, that was me too. Rick showed up late because he went off on some damn suicide mission to save a drug dealer. Yeah, he joined in, but we wouldn't have been in that mess if he hadn't left in the first place. I got angrier by the second, remembering everything. I forced myself to calm down and crouched in front of her again. Rick mentioned something. She looked at me, confused. What? I met her eyes. And I know the reason you didn't say it, is 'cause you know it's mine. It's Rick's, she said immediately. I let out a short laugh. Okay. I looked at her again. We carried on, Lori. Before he got back. You know it. I know it. It's mine. You're wrong, she said, louder now. You're wrong. I'm sorry, Shane. I'm sorry. But even if it's yours, it's not gonna be yours. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My chest tightened. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. I couldn't believe it. Even if it was mine, I still couldn't be the baby's father. Not to her. Not to anyone. It didn't matter that I was there when it counted. Didn't matter what we had. She had already made up her mind, and I wasn't part of that future. Not until Rick is around. It's never gonna be yours, she said again, making my chest tighten even more. And there's nothing you can do to change that. I stood up slowly. Fine. I get it. I turned and walked away, saying nothing more and waiting for no response. I walked alone through the trees. Shit. I turned and slammed my fist into the nearest tree. Then again. And again. I didn't stop until the tree bark was painted red. My knuckles torn open. Skin hanging. Blood dripping onto the dirt. You came back and destroyed everything. Everything. It wasn't enough I lost Lori. Wasn't enough I lost Carl. Now I lose even my own damn child. Mine. It's mine. I know it's mine. I slammed my fist again. And again. My vision blurred, but I didn't stop. What does she see in you? You weren't there. You didn't keep her safe. You didn't protect Carl. I did. I did. And now you just walk back in and take it all back like I don't even exist. No. He lets a goddamn barn full of walkers rot right next to the camp, and needs to beg some geezer to kill them. He hesitates. He asks. He pleads. I can make the hard calls. I do what needs to be done. I'm the one built for this world, not him. I pressed my forehead against the blood-streaked bark, chest heaving, teeth clenched. I'm the one who kept them alive. I'm the one who kept them fed. I'm the one who gave them a place to sleep when they had nothing. And for everything I've done, you'll just take away my child. I stood there, bleeding, breathing like I'd just run through hell. I need to find that brat. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support. We've officially passed 1,500 plus power stones. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought of the story and the character interactions in the comments. I love reading your reactions. Thanks again for reading Black Heart. 58 comments, 0 vote. Chapter 31. No more waiting. Less than McPov greater than. I sat on the ground, a map spread out in front of me, tracing nearby military bases, solar panel sites, and construction zones. Amy was beside me, focused, pointing out areas we could still check. Then I noticed Rick approaching. He stopped a few feet away. Hey, got a minute? Amy caught the look on Rick's face and stood up right away, brushing dirt off her jeans. She glanced at me with a faint smile. I'll see you later. I gave a small nod, watching her head back towards the RV. Rick sat across from me, his eyes on the map before shifting to mine. I see you've been busy. I folded the map and set it aside. Just checking for more supplies and better suited vehicles. And ways to reinforce the prison. Rick nodded. I talked to Hershel. If he agrees to let us stay, I want to stay at least until Lori gives birth. I nodded back. If this place stays safe, I agree. But I'll keep working on the prison etherway. He gave a tired smile. Thank you, I appreciate that. After a short pause, he continued. What plans do you have for it? Nothing big yet. How to reinforce the perimeter? Perhaps later, we can surround it with cargo containers or scrap metal. Dig trenches, add solar panels, and add water filters. To make it self-sufficient. Rick was a bit stunned by the scale of the plans before quickly composing himself. As I said, if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. You have already done more than enough for us. I just nodded as Rick started to stand back up. I stopped him with one last comment. By the way, congratulations. He paused, then gave a smile, somewhere between happy and sad. Thank you. Before he could say more, Hershel approached us from the side. Rick, there's something I could use your help with. Rick looked surprised and happy, thinking Hershel might have changed his mind. Of course. Rick gave me a quick nod before following behind Hershel. After they left, I packed up the map and stood up, heading back to the camp. I thought we had more time before the horde came. I'll need to speed things up. First, we need to find vehicles that can transport the farm animals. Trucks, trailers, anything with enough space. And now there's Randall. Now there's Randall as well. He has a big group. They should have plenty of supplies that we could use. The only problem, they're armed and have over 30 men. And the only one who could help me wipe them out is Daryl again. When I got close to camp, I could already hear the group arguing again. Daryl's voice cut through first. I say we just shoot him and be done with it. Andrea and Amy both nod without hesitation. While Jackie wasn't so sure. Are we sure that's a good idea? Rick said he was gonna talk to Hershel, maybe he'll figure something out. Jim chimed in from where he was leaning against the RV. Maybe we should wait. Think this through before we do anything. Jenner didn't even look up from his notebook. Live samples would be better. After I'm done, you can finish them off. T-Dog looked at him, baffled. I don't think that's what he meant, man. Jenner shrugged. Well, I'd think leaving some intact would be the best. There are limitations on what I can do and find out with fully dead ones. Carol cut them both off. That doesn't matter right now. What matters is our safety. And keeping a small herd locked in a barn that's barely standing. That doesn't sound safe to me. I walked past them quietly and sat next to Amy. She turned toward me immediately. What did you and Rick talk about? I glanced back at her. Nothing important. He just wanted some advice. She nodded once, dropping the topic and moving on immediately. Speaking of advice, what do you think we should do about the barn? The group went quiet, everyone turning toward me. I just answered calmly. Kill them all, and show that they're truly dead and there's no cure or hope for them. Silence. Everyone stared at me. No one said a word, except Jenner. That could work, he muttered, tapping his pen. Might be the push they need to finally see the truth. Or it might just break them completely. Amy frowned. That seems a bit cruel. But, if they can't get over it, they'll end up dead either way. Daryl snorted. They need to wake up to reality. World's gone to shit. If someone else had found this place, they likely wouldn't be with us anymore. No one argued. Most just stood there, quiet, remembering what it was like before the farm. What it really meant to survive on the road. While everyone was in their thoughts, I sensed someone looking at me from behind. Turning around, I saw Shane standing a couple feet away, just watching me, holding a duffel bag full of guns. Shane met my gaze, stared for a second longer, then finally moved toward us. Daryl noticed Shane approaching with the guns and asked immediately, "What's all this?" Shane kept walking, turning to Daryl and me. "You with me?" he said, handing me a Glock. I nodded and took it without hesitation. He turned toward Daryl next. "What about you?" Daryl took a gun as well. "Yeah," he said. Shane dropped the bag in the middle, pulling out another handgun and handing it to Andrea. Then he looked at everyone else. "Time to grow up. We could follow the rules when we thought this place was safe. Now we know it ain't." Most of the group started taking the guns. Amy took a simple handgun too, turning toward me with a slight smile. "Well, I'm getting live gun practice sooner than we planned." I smiled back at her. "Every shot you miss, we add more laps around the farm." Amy's smile disappeared, and she quickly reminded me of something more important. "Don't forget our bet. You still owe me anything I want," she finished with a smirk. We all started walking toward the greenhouse and the barn. Shane saw Carol walking with us and raised a brow. "If you're coming, you should have a gun," he said, pulling a spare pistol from his waist. Carol didn't respond immediately. She just pulled out a small handgun she'd had hidden. "Don't worry. I have one." Most of the group looked a little stunned. Carol, of all people, carrying a gun against the rules. Spotting the gun, I immediately glanced toward Daryl, recognizing it as Thomas's gun, the one he took during our run to the prison. In response, Daryl just shrugged and kept walking forward. Test tube author's note. Thank you all so much for the support. Sorry about the delays and the shorter chapter. I'm currently sick and just don't have the energy to sit at the PC for hours writing like usual. The only upside is that if I start feeling better tomorrow or in the next few days, I might post longer chapters since I don't have to go to work. No promises, though. Again, sorry for the delay and short chapter. Please comment if you spot any mistakes. Hope you still enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought of the story and the character interactions. I love reading your reactions. Thanks again for reading Black Heart. 38 comments, 0 vote.